Sake podcast listeners and watchers, if you only listen right now, we're also available on YouTube. You can go ahead and check us out at For Foot's Sake Podcast on YouTube and subscribe there if you want to stay up to date. We would really appreciate it. We have a lot to talk about today. It's been a busy couple weeks. Most of all, Barcelona have some manager changes. We'll definitely talk about that. And we're going to talk about some of the crazy match results that have been happening in the Premier League. So let's get right into it. All right, we're going to start this week, guys, with kind of where we left off last week. We were guessing who was going to get fired first, and we have our answer a couple weeks later, and it's Ronald Koeman of FC Barcelona. I'm going to go ahead and do my little personal celebration. So the Barcelona B coach is going to take over on an interim basis. His name is Sergi Barjuan, until XAVI, their club legend, can come and take over as head coach. We talked about this a little bit last week, but it looks like it's going to be the beginning of the XAVI era now.
That's interesting. So I'm just thinking about it. In one way, it worked out when they appointed Pep Guardiola from what was he, the Barcelona youth team or B manager?
Mm-hmm.
They appointed him, and it just seemed like everything fell into place.
Yeah.
But then you see him with other clubs like a Chelsea where things kind of worked out, at least for a season, and then halfway through the next season, things fell apart. Then, of course, Pirlo at Juventus.
Right, yeah.
So how do you think this is going to go? I mean, in XAVI, he knows Barcelona inside and out. He knows the quote-unquote Barcelona way.
Yeah. That's the only reason I think it could possibly end up well. In theory, hiring a coach who's been coaching in Qatar the past couple of years isn't generally what you want to hear. But when it's XAVI, a club legend who knows the in and outs of the club so well, I'm definitely willing to give him a chance. And I think they'll give him a chance just because of their personal relationship with him. And hopefully they don't kick him out too early if they don't get the results right away, because they're going to need a lot of work. He has a lot of work ahead of him when he does take over that position.
And I think that's kind of a question where experience comes into play, because an experienced manager kind of knows how to be like, okay, let's focus on the basics, get the defense together, then you build on that. And I don't know how he's done in Qatar. No, I don't. No offense, not following.
I think his Qatari side's pretty good, but I mean, we don't really know what really that says. That doesn't really translate to the Liga.
Exactly, because it's just, what I'm saying. This is top level football where, I've seen it in the Premier League all the time. A manager gets fired, they bring in someone like a Sam Allardyce, for example, who just focuses on those things, and they kind of build on it. And it's just, this is a different situation. This is a weird one for as long as I've seen. A Barcelona in 9th place, and it's just how do you kind of get things going? I mean, that'll be interesting to see how things play out.
Yeah, I mean, a successful campaign for Barcelona at this point in the season is, with the start that they've had, would be just getting in the top 4. I think that's all you can really ask of an interim or XAVI coming in at the last minute. But the top 3 right now in La Liga, Real Sociedad, who have not been on top for a long time, Real Madrid and Sevilla, only separated by 3 points at the top there. Let's see. Well, let's just go through and see what each one of these top 3 teams can improve on, because they're obviously all having great campaigns. Real Sociedad has a great offensive lineup. We talked about it a little bit last week, but we both love Isak a lot, and Orizabal. Adnan Januzaj from Manchester United and a couple other clubs has actually flourished pretty well there. But really defensively, I feel like is where they need a little bit of help. Lenormand is maybe one notable defender that they have who's pretty consistent. But if they want to keep that top spot, I would say defense would probably be the place to go. Well, what about Real Madrid?
How's their defense? Because from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the attack, especially with Karim Benzema, who's like in the form of his life at the moment.
Yeah, and Vinicius Junior has really come on to his responsibilities at Real too. So I think attacking wise, they're pretty good. Yeah.
So how about their defense? And then because I know they've got the midfield's a little aged. I know
it's aging, but they have like the likes of Federico Valverde and Camavinga.
So how's he show?
Camavinga hasn't gotten a lot of time, to be honest, so far under Ancelotti.
I mean, I know he's young anyway.
He's young, and it's his first time in the league, so that's no surprise. Valverde is going to slot in no problem when Modric and Kroos get out of there.
So I know that's probably something that they have to think about at some point, because they're not getting any younger.
Defensively, though, I'm not convinced about their center back pairing of Nacho and Militao.
Well, first of all, Militao, isn't he left back, right, originally?
Right back who plays center back. But the same was what Alaba's been doing, who's technically a left back, but they've been playing him a lot as center back too. So if I had to pick again, I might have to go defensively again with Real Madrid as far as where they could improve.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Sevilla, now, as long as they can hold on to Jules Kounde, is very solid defensively and only has conceded 7 goals so far this season.
That's impressive. What's he play? Because I seen him as he's what, 5'10", and he's playing as a center back.
He's probably one of the smallest center backs out there. But man, he's got a lot of clubs circling around him. Obviously, Chelsea have been on him, have his eye on him. XAVI has noted that he is interested in him too. So yeah, defensively, I think they might be set. Goals is where I see them struggling a little bit this season.
Who's there? Is Lopetegui still in charge?
He is. Yeah, Lopetegui. Yeah, I mean he's done a good job with them. They're sitting in third. But when you have strikers like Rafa Mir, I think is their big guy. It's no disrespect to him. He's gotten some goals, but they could use some firepower up front if they want to stay in this position going forward. Going over to the Premier League real quick, it has been a hell of a week for Chelsea. Not only did they win 3-0 against Newcastle, it was a good second half performance there, but also Manchester City lost 2-0 to Crystal Palace, and Liverpool drew 2-2 at Brighton. So drop points for the other 2 top teams, and Chelsea sit alone at the top.
Yep. And for Chelsea, what are strikers?
Yeah. Injuries to Lukaku and Werner, and still getting 3-0. Well, their wingbacks are doing all the work for them.
Wingbacks and center backs somehow come up with goals, and then the midfield trickling it. So it's just the goals are coming from everywhere but the front line, and I'll take it for the time being.
Yeah.
That just means once our strikers actually start clicking, goals galore, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. And what happened to City in that 2-0 loss to Crystal Palace? That was a wild one.
You know what? Pep Guardiola, he has those like weird anomaly games in him. Like
yeah.
Where like Laporte getting sent off. First of all, I don't know why he was acting surprised about the sending off. That was essentially a football rugby tackle.
About as obvious as it gets. Yeah.
But it's just those little he has those matches where just something falls apart, and then Crystal Palace, credit to him. I mean, again, I've been a fan of Patrick Vieira. I'm just respect to how you think about the path he's gone along, and now he's got a Premier League team, especially one that's kind of gone through like an immediate change with, in terms of players and of course management. Credit to him, and that's a big win for him.
Yeah, huge. Oh, let's go to real quick. I want to get your opinion on Rudiger's contract situation. He's like he's in the last year of his contract and holding out to be one of the top earners at Chelsea. There's been interest from Real Madrid and a couple other big clubs. So in this situation, do you side on let's pay him the money because he's been in fantastic form and keep one of our top defenders, or if he's giving you problems, let him go and go with the Kounde or De Ligt, some of the other names that have been thrown out? To
be honest with you, I kind of let him go. I mean, he's a good defender, and it's just one of those moments where I think you just need to cash in. What is he, 28?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not bad, but it's just my concern is it just seems like if Tuchel goes, are we still going to get that same Rudiger by any chance?
That's true. Yeah.
And with
Under
that
Frank Lampard, he was non-existent. Yeah.
Exactly. And with that being said, I think, you've got Trevoh Chalobah, I think he's ready to kind of, I'll say this, probably the end of the season, he'll probably be ready to take on more responsibility. Mm-hmm. And you got Andres Christensen, who looks like he's finally kind of just grown into form.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I think we'd be okay. I mean, yeah, I'd like for him to stay around, but at the same time, this kind of reminds me of the Willian situation. Granted, Willian was a lot older. Mm-hmm. It's just like, looking forward, great defender, but I think we could afford to lose him.
Yeah, and out of the names that have been thrown out there, we don't know this for sure, but out of Kounde and De Ligt, do you have a favorite for a replacement?
If Kounde is sounding as good as people are saying, I'd take him.
Give it a shot.
Why not? I mean, it seems like he's versatile too. From what I'm hearing, he can play as like a wing back if need be. So I mean, I think that's what a lot of footballers need in their locker nowadays, is that versatility. You can't just be restricted to one position. So I mean, if that's the case, why not? And then he's got an age on his side. So
yeah, that's a good point.
It's time to settle into the Premier League. Time to keep growing. So
I
I mean, parting ways with Rudiger. I'd be okay with it. I'm not, we shouldn't let, and no club should let any player hold them hostage in terms of wages.
He is a cult Chelsea fan. Everyone at the club loves that guy because of the dark arts, as the NBC guys like to call it.
I love it, but it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, if Madrid are willing to, any opportunity for us to fleece Madrid, I will take it any day. I mean, I'm loving it with Hazard stinking up the show over there.
Yeah.
So if the same thing were to happen, I'd love every minute of it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about West Ham real quick. They had a big 4-0 or 4-1 win against Aston Villa this past weekend. But they sit at 4th right now in the Premier League table, level on points with City at 20. And it looks like David Moyes, after some trouble leaving Everton, has finally found a club that fits him really well.
I guess so. I mean, he went to United, which, to be fair, I'll say he kind of walked into like an aging squad that,
just lost a legendary coach. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just, that was, regardless of who got that job, I think they were just kind of walking to like a terrible situation. But, we saw how that played out. Then I think he went to Spain. He went to Sociedad for.
He did, yeah.
That didn't work out. And
Not so
then
much.
it just, I guess.
I think he went down with Sunderland as well.
He did. I mean,
Yeah.
it seemed like he was on a bad run, but then he gets to West Ham, and it just seems like his career got reignited, and good for him, and good for West Ham too. And I think they've got like a Czech billionaire who's getting ready to.
There's been talk of some financial backing coming from them too.
So I mean, it's happy times for West Ham, and credit to David Moyes. It seems like it just kind of reminds me of like his vintage Everton days.
Yeah, that was really when he was at his best. The one thing I can't figure out about him is that he plays the exact same starting 11 every single game, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But the starting 11, he plays pretty much every match. Fabianski in goal, Cresswell, Agbana, Zuma, and either Johnson or Soufal if he's healthy.
Yeah, that's right. He did pick up an injury.
He did. Souček and Rice, Bowen, Benrahma, and Fornals, and Antonio up front. Those guys play in and out, with the exception of the Europa Leagues midweek. They're pretty much the squad every single Premier League game. Is that obviously it builds a lot of team cohesion, which is good. But does it make you too predictable as a team?
I see where you're getting at, and at the same time, I kind of fall into the camp of, hey, if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, if it's working. Yeah.
But but with the predictability, I see what you're saying, because I mean, if you go up against a savvy enough manager who's not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, yeah, they could probably come up with a plan to say, all right, this is how we need to line up and take care of someone like an Antonio, and any other threat they have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Since you mentioned Solskjaer, it seems like we do that every week now. But since the last episode we had, obviously, I guess you saw Manchester United lost 5-0 to Liverpool, which is just unacceptable from Manchester United point of view. They gave Ole supposedly 3 games to save his job. It would be the Tottenham game that he did win 3-0. Then upcoming is Manchester City and Chelsea, which are 3 really tough games. Is he going to get away with it again, like we talked about last week, where he just wins enough games, or is this finally the time where we get to say, "All right, this guy's out for good"?
You know what? It's we how many? I've lost count of how many times we've been here.
Almost every episode we have to talk about.
It's just how he's on the his back's against the wall. This is it, and somehow, some way, he goes on that magical run. But I think somewhere along the way, it's got to come to an end, because So they beat a woeful Tottenham side this weekend. Let's be honest.
They really are struggling.
And then they've got Atalanta midweek Champions League, who they came back and beat. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure they've got that fresh in their minds, and they're going to be up for it. Yeah. Then you've got a Man City side, before the international break, who just lost to Crystal Palace. So Pep Guardiola is going to want to make a point.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, these aren't easy matches, and it's just, I think those 2 matches, if he doesn't do well, I wouldn't say he's going to get sacked, but I think there will probably be grumblings during that international break, because you look what happened in the last one. Watford, they did their business. They were like, okay, whoever the poor guy was, who was their manager, he got sacked. They bring in Ranieri. Mm-hmm. I don't know and that's the thing. I think I've heard talks that they want to keep Ollie around because he's a quote unquote nice guy. Everyone gets along with him, but it's like, look,
keep him as a club ambassador then.
Well, yeah, there you go. See, that's a perfect role for him. But it's just that's what I'm saying. Look, this is Manchester United, not a summer camp where you want to keep everyone happy. I mean, they're supposed to be competing.
That's and he tried to 3 at the back this week, and it worked against, like we said, a really struggling Tottenham team. But man, I don't see him doing very well against the tactical minds of Guardiola and Tuchel coming up.
Exactly. And then on top of that, I'll just say this: if Man United keep them, they just made the top 4 race open. For 4th spot. Because I mean, you look at the table, it's wide open.
It really is. Yeah, West Ham, Arsenal, even Brighton and Everton, Leicester, all up there. It's up for grabs. Just to go real quickly to Germany, I guess you guys saw Bayern lost 5-0, got knocked out of the German Cup by Borussia Mönchengladbach. Really shocking performance. When I saw the score, I had to assume that they had put in their B side for the cup matches, but they started their top guys, the Lewandowskis, the Sanes, Kimmich, and got whopped 5-0. Dayot Upamecano had a particularly horrible game. I mean, even the announcers were just ragging on him the whole time. After his big money move from Leipzig, him and Sule were the young defenders who are supposed to be carrying on Bayern's defensive legacy after Boateng and all the older people left. But man, their defense is struggling.
Yeah, like I said, it's a strange one. But at the same time, I mean, how many players have you seen come from the other clubs in the Bundesliga to Bayern and not do so well? And at the same time, you look at Bayern, they've got to be going through some weird transition period because, I mean, you've got, although Lewandowski is, 33, still able to score goals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he can probably get away with that for another, well, I think he's got a contract dispute, talks coming up, right?
Okay. In the next couple of years, I think he does, yeah.
So, and then you've got Thomas Mueller. I mean, as good as he is.
Yeah.
And then who else in there is kind of up there in age? You can't really count the goalkeeper. But it's just, it seems like they've got the pieces in there, but I think, I don't know, it's a strange one.
They can't figure out what their back four is. Davies pretty much has left back locked down, but like the two center backs are struggling. Sometimes they play Pavard as a center back. They play Lucas Hernandez as a center back, and they're both wing backs. You see them both play center back sometimes. I just feel like Nagelsmann's trying to figure out what his back four is, and he just still can't quite figure it out.
I'm surprised. I'm really okay. He went for Upamecano. I'm surprised he didn't just go for Konate and just I don't know, take both of his former players.
Yeah, there you go.
But then again, I mean, that's why it's so hard. It's just why it's so hard to be interested in the Bundesliga. Somehow everything goes to Bayern, and it's like, well, that's
why you like to see him lose 5-0 every once in a while.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, even if it was just a cup, which, like I said, I was surprised too. I'm thinking, that maybe they had, like you said, a B side, because that's how they do in the Premier League. They usually, up until probably the later stages, you kind of have like full, your full first 11.
Yeah.
Over under.
Well, speaking of West Ham, I mean, I think you just got to give it to them. That's impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, who really would have seen? I mean, to be fair, they look like they've kind of been making like steady progress. Well, no, there was a point where they looked like they were kind of like out of sorts, but credit to them. They've done well. And then, so as far as an under goes,
I might have to go with Everton, honestly. With the squad they have, did you see? Okay, so the other week they were up like 2-0 on Watford, and Watford came back and won like 5-2 or something. Watford is not a strong side, and I know Everton is missing Calvert-Lewin, who's like their main goal scorer. But it seems like, man, with his absence, they look really lost and unable to score goals for the most part.
Yeah, that is a big loss because Calvert-Lewin, he's a big physical presence. It makes life difficult for defenders, and too bad they're not like Chelsea where they've got everyone else scoring goals. But that is I agree with that because they should to a degree. You almost want to say Leicester, but at the same time, they kind of had a bad start with injuries. But then again, they went up against an Arsenal side who are a little patchy. I'm not going to say they're terrible because on paper they have an okay squad. But I don't know. I think both of them kind of have to fall into that category.
It was a great 2-0 win for Arsenal over the weekend, too, over Leicester. And I'll give credit one more time to the guy who was kind of bashing at the beginning of the season. Aaron Ramsdale had like a save of the season contender on I believe it was a free kick or something.
I think a lot of people are eating their words on Aaron Ramsdale.
Yeah, man,
I mean, it seems like he's just been a good fit. I mean, didn't know he could play out the back like that, for one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the saves. I mean, that's impressive. But, so like I said, with this top four race being open, And then I know none of us really factored Arsenal being up there, but
Sure,
with
yeah.
United being...
Or West Ham, but for that matter.
So who do you realistically think could lock down that 4th spot? I mean, it's really up for grabs, unless not to be making fun of Ole. As long as he's in charge, it's up.
You're right, though. I mean, that really changes everything. With Manchester United squad, if they have a coach who can get the best out of that squad, they're easily above the rest of those teams. But if they stay in this current form, I mean, anyone can beat them on the right day.
But, you look at Arsenal. I mean, could you really say they could potentially do it? I mean,
it's possible. It's possible. They'd have to get the best performances out of Aubameyang and Lacazette, who are very patchy as goal scorers.
But overall, that's Arsenal. That's the story of Arsenal altogether. I mean, they've got good players, but
their young players are really saving them. The Saka and the Smith Rowes they've really helped Arsenal.
But that's the problem with banking on youth. You're not going to get that consistency. They're still learning, and that's going to be the problem. I mean,
that's one thing they don't have a lot of at all is a lot of experience. They have a pretty young team, don't they?
So that's I think that's going to be a strike against them. But I'm definitely interested to see how that plays out. Will United say, okay, Ole, you've done your job. We're going after an Antonio Conte, and then, like you said, that's just going to change. That'll hey, United will lock that down, or could West Ham just keep their run going, or somehow could Brighton keep going?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
And there's a whole new section of coaches on the hot seat we talked about a little bit last week. And all right, I'm going to interject a little bit on this conversation because things have actually changed a little bit since we've had it. Nuno Espirito Santo is out as Tottenham manager. He's going to be replaced by Antonio Conte, which is a bit of a surprise. He had a lot of contract demands, and with Daniel Levy in the board, it's always a little bit iffy as to whether that deal was going to get done, but they got it done really fast. Antonio Conte is in, obviously previously winning the Scudetto at Inter Milan, and before that with Chelsea winning the Premier League title. So it's definitely going to add a little bit more flavor to those London derbies. I'm sure we're going to talk about it a lot more in weeks to come, but I just wanted to keep you guys updated. All right, let's get back to the conversation. But we were also talking about Dean Smith of Aston Villa having a bit of a slump.
Yeah, that's a straight. Well, let's see. I mean, I think we all knew as soon as they lost to Jack Grealish, life was going to be difficult because you lose a player like that. That's difficult to replace. And,
yeah.
And no offense, when it's an Aston Villa that you loses a player like that, you really are. I wouldn't say in trouble. It's going to be a struggle to kind of move on. And I mean, granted, to be fair, they spent the money wisely. Danny Ings, Leon Bailey, who kind of has health issues. It's keeping him healthy. And who else they buy with him? Oh yeah, Emi Buendia. So they made some smart buys, but it's just, again, you lose someone like a Jack Grealish.
Yeah,
you're gonna struggle.
Yeah. All right, that does it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, you can send us some questions. Our email is forfootsakepod@gmail.com. We want to get a Q&A session going with you guys. And you can also leave us a comment on Instagram and Facebook @forfootsakepod. We would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.